Okay, so let me talk a little bit more about how to run an exit process. And in my case, it turned out that we first of all, the most important thing was to actually start on time. You can't start to plan an exit process when you have 3 months of cash left, because by that time it's already late. We started 9 months in advance. And second is that you have to run this like a process. Like literally, this is one of those spreadsheets that you build out, which has 40 names on it. 5 of them or 6 of them are people that you already know and are in your industry, but the remaining are just 1 degree, 2 degrees away, and you run this in a very structured format where you're trying to find out who the right person in each of those companies might be, who might have a view on potentially buying your company. And the reason why you're doing that is because you're trying to create option value. You're trying to make sure that when it comes to the final decision, you have enough of different kinds of options to choose from. Now, one of the options is obviously to continue as is, to continue growing the company, to continue making it big, which is fantastic. Another option is to obviously raise more capital, which is also great. As an entrepreneur, we all relate to that. But the fact that you've actually invested all this effort in building these relationships while you were exploring all the other potential suitors for your company allows you to not come to the battle unprepared when you have to make a hard decision about selling the company. So that's the second thing that I would recommend that you do. I think the third thing is to also make sure that you have taken both your investors and your employees on board. And I'll tell you why that matters, because what's really going to happen is that in situations like these, you'll often have to make choices that sometimes do not align entirely with the interest of your employees or the interest of your investors. At that time, if you haven't really done the legwork of making sure that everyone understands the reality of the situation, you'll essentially come up with options that would sometimes seem like bad faith. The investor might come back and say, well, how come I'm getting a haircut on this in this deal? Or an employee might come back and say, well, I don't want to work for the acquiring company. Now, how do you make sure that those kind of surprises are taken care of much earlier is by building relationships and being transparent much, much earlier on. And I think the final thing that I would say is that when you have to be very clear about what you're optimizing for in an exit. You're not optimizing for just the financial value of the outcome of the exit, of the acquisition. You're actually optimizing for the sum total of you and your employees and your investors' financial plus mental well-being over the next 3 to 4 years, believe it or not. Your investors most likely would have a financial outcome and then move out and move away. But you and your employees are also going to be working at the acquiring company for the next many years. And you have to be able to find that environment, something that empowers you to grow next further in your career. Now, that means often that the acquirer, it's not just important how much cash they're putting on the table, how much equity they're giving, or what your perspective on how much their equity would grow is. You're also looking for what kind of a work culture that you and your employees would be getting into as soon as the exit is over. And that, I can tell you, determines a lot more, determines the actual financial outcome a lot more than you would imagine. You might, and your employees might actually leave in disgust in a year's time because they just can't stand the work culture of the acquiring company. Or you might actually end up building this beautiful career at that acquiring company. And the total difference is the kind of relationship that you've built and what you've optimized for when you were looking for that exit.